Filmmaking these days seems to be so international, and so money comes from so many different sources.
Right.
And stuff. The fact that James is of Asian descent, and also there's so much money coming from places like China and stuff like that. Have you ever encountered, or is there something that maybe a curiosity factor of maybe doing something that would be, for James maybe even, or maybe have you guys talked about anything like that?
In Asia?
In Asia, or maybe bringing, I don't know, something, because...
I think, yeah, I mean... James is very proud of his Chinese heritage, and he was in Malaysia, I think, until he was 9 before he even came out to Australia. And that is a big part of who he is as a person. I was born and raised in Melbourne. I lived in the same house growing up in the suburbs, very suburban Australian upbringing. James has this whole other side that is very interesting. And I think you're right. I think film is becoming more international. I loved that Slumdog Millionaire cleaned up at the Academy Awards and was a big hit to boot, because it's such an international film, directed by someone from the UK, set in the slums of Mumbai. I loved that about it, and I hope that the things like the internet and the sort of this sort of game of back and forth that we play with, cyber media, for want of a better term, another marketing term.
You've shot so many times.
I know, wow. I hope that that's shrinking the world down to a certain extent, so that you can put a film out that's set in Mumbai or Iceland and it can be a hit in the States. It doesn't need to be set in New York to be a hit. It can be set in Reykjavik or Glasgow. I want that to happen, and I think that the ability to go to places like, I mean, it's funny you should ask this. I had an idea recently, which I won't go into, that was set in like a future version of Hong Kong. So I think that idea probably came out of that knowledge that you can do that now.
That sounds awesome, actually. I watch it.
Yeah, I mean, Hong Kong already looks like the future version of Hong Kong. So I don't know what you would do. Maybe add in some flying cars, free Blade Runner. But yeah, man, I'm excited. Like I'm doing a film. I'm working now with an Australian company called Animal Logic, who are releasing The Legend of the Guardians, and they did the animation for Happy Feet, and they're an Australian company. Peter Jackson has turned New Zealand, this far-flung island in terms of relative to Hollywood, into a leading filmmaking country in the world. That people like James Cameron are going to New Zealand to get Weta to do the effects for their films. I mean, that is amazing what he has done. I just admire him so much, and it's proof that it can be done anywhere. If you really want to set up an international effects house or a filmmaking studio, you can do it anywhere you want. It's just about your passion and your vision for it. And I think Peter Jackson with Weta has like changed everything. Down in that part of the world, we just can't believe what he's done. We're very jealous as Australians. We're very jealous people. Peter Jackson.
Damn you.
Damn you. But Animal Logic, I think, is a company that aspires to be a Pixar. And that's fantastic. Why couldn't they be Pixar? Just because they're in Sydney? It doesn't. There's no reason why they couldn't be. And I think they will be.
Last final question. You write, and you say that writing is a bit of a lonely so at 3 a.m. when you're kind of trying to come up with that scene that'll just scare the bejesus out of it, what scares you? Like, obviously 3 a.m. by yourself writing about a scene, and if does that kind of, I would scare myself. I don't know.
I do actually scare myself when I'm writing. I'm sitting there at 3 a.m. writing a creepy scene. I mean, you start to hear noises. I've creeped myself out, which is a pretty good barometer. It's like writing a comedy. If you're laughing, that's the only real barometer you have. I mean, and Angus and I have worked on comedy stuff before, and we're cracking each other up. And that's the way James and I work with horror. We sit in a room, we start telling ghost stories and stuff. If we creep each other out, it's working. And you can't go and do a bunch of focus groups before you've started writing. You only have one person, yourself or your writing partner. So I'm hoping, now that the film is finished, that this inner barometer that works for me works for a whole lot of other people.
It does. Last night just showed. Thank you very much. Really
Thank
nice
you.